if you ask most people, they'll tell you that insurances are important. Health insurance, that's a big one. Everyone's always talking about it. Car insurance, life insurance, house insurance, you name it. There's an insurance for it. But what about your freedom and your security? Now, we have an answer for that. R3 Contingencies is the first and only company that has a system in place to help you if you make a mistake and your security becomes an issue and your freedom. So if you have a run-in with the law or police, there are plans in place, and there's plans that you can have set up to help you in those situations. Because most people will just turn their back on you, not R3 Contingencies. So to learn more, text R3C to 36260. You'll get our really cool app, and you can learn more about it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the New Hampshire Business Show. My name is Chris Pastrana, and today we're here with Jeremy Kauffman of the Free State Project. How's it going?
Great to be here with you, Chris.
Absolutely. So, since I know you do a lot of other things on your own, let's talk a little bit about yourself first, then we'll kind of jump into this whole Free State Project thing.
Sure, yeah. It was one of our pre-show conversations. What hat am I wearing here? So, I'm involved with the Free State Project. I'm a board member there, and the Free State Project is a movement to concentrate those with a liberty-oriented mindset in the state of New Hampshire, kind of recognizing that we can be more effective by concentrating. If you're a big believer in liberty and freedom, you're probably not feeling great about the policies of your state. Maybe by aligning our forces, we can accomplish more. I find the idea a very interesting one from a business perspective. It's not that, in my opinion, socialists and communists should be doing the same thing. I think it's a very smart idea. I'm also very into business itself. I am, I guess, a serial entrepreneur at this point. I'm on my second startup that still exists. I've founded one company that was a software as a service company serving sport and activity organizations, and grew that company to a moderate size, and it's still growing. It's called TopScore. And I'm currently the CEO of a blockchain-based digital content company called LBRY Library. And that's sort of this idea that can we create services like YouTube or Netflix, but design them via this protocol-based way so that, you don't have this level of ownership that, say, Facebook or Google does over the service itself. The service is actually controlled by the users rather than the company that built it. I imagine we're going to have quite a bit to talk about. And, but there's some common topics because I tend to bring my startup mentality to the Free State Project.
Yeah. Okay. So that's really interesting. I think probably a little topic offhand, but go a little bit into that because I like the idea that, because I think some of the issues we run into with, as like you said, Facebook, Google, YouTube, is that they're very traditionally structured, so it creates a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, so the idea of Library, LBRY, is, and this is a product that exists. You can go and download it and run it right now. It's lbry.io. We have built a blockchain-based protocol, and when I use the word protocol, a protocol is not a platform. It's not Facebook. It's not Google. Protocol is the stuff that powers the web. It's how we can open Firefox and Chrome and get the same experience. It's how we can have different email and have the same experience. We said, can we build a protocol that solves this specific problem of distributing and monetizing digital content? That's what we tried to do with Library. There's over 500,000 videos and other pieces of digital content on there right now. There's some super popular YouTubers. You can find a couple of Hollywood videos. We have a deal with a Hollywood studio. There's a decent amount of content on there right now. You can go and check it out. It is a beta. It is a blockchain-based product. It's not. I'm not trying to promise perfection quite yet. We're still in beta, but lots of people are using it, and your users, your viewers can check it out right now.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we're an international company, although we do have an office here in New Hampshire, and I live here in New Hampshire.
Pretty cool. Awesome. I'm definitely going to talk to you more about that at another point because that's pretty cool. I like those types of new revolutionary ideas type thing.
Yeah.
I think those are important and pretty cool. So anyway, let's get into the Free State Project.
Yeah.
So I guess blanket, what is it?
Yeah, so I jumped the gun on this question a little bit, man. The idea is liberty is a great idea, but we've been losing fighting it everywhere individually.
Yeah.
If you look at the history of the United States, it's kind of founded on this idea of individual liberty, individual choice, If we were, say, to plot this on a graph, we've had ups and downs, but it's gradually gone downward. We have less. Now, technology's gotten better. I'm not saying I'd rather live in the 1750s, but if you look at the amount of personal freedom that we have from government, the amount that people have the ability to make choices for themselves, which is a very important idea to me, it's gone downwards over the history of time. And so this idea that we're going to kind of convince people on the ideas of liberty, I congratulate the people who are working on that. I applaud them. Because, right, that's how we get more liberty-oriented people. But as a liberty-oriented person myself, I was kind of like, I don't know, F that. Like, it's like we're losing. We've been losing for all time. Like, there's got to be another way. And so that's, I do have this startup-oriented mindset of like, is there another strategy that we can pursue? And I think the idea of the Free State Project is it's a brilliant strategy. Yeah. And it really made me fall in love with the idea because it has the same, it actually has the same dynamics as a startup in terms of what makes it successful. Yeah. It has this self-reinforcing idea. And, this is already happening. People are already moving. States are getting more blue or more red. We need a state that's for those who believe in freedom. Yeah. Because this is not the majority of the United States. Yeah. But if we concentrate ourselves, maybe we can actually get something done. Yeah. The United States has a strong tradition of federalism and respect for states' rights. And so the idea is we can be more effective living in one place. And I can talk more about that experience, but I've already been probably talking too long about what the idea is. So that's the idea of the Free State Project, and we can talk more about the specifics and the history and how we're doing. And the answer is great, by the way. But that's the idea.
Okay, I like that because there's always this idea, and I think it's tossed around a lot, and that's vote with your feet. So, the idea of getting up, moving, based on your money and your beliefs and stuff. But people don't really actually do it very often. So it's good to see that principle actually being enacted, and I like to see that. Yeah.
It just makes a lot of sense on a lot of levels. However, to make so I'm kind of making a bird's eye strategic view argument, which is not the argument as to why you yourself out there should consider moving. So I do want to talk about that a little bit because I like the strategy of it. The subjective experience was actually more like I really like the idea, and that was a big driver in my move. Subjectively, having moved here, there are things that I've appreciated about it that I really wouldn't have but before experiencing it, which is like if you are this kind of person living in a lot of places, you're kind of like regularly like biting your tongue, or like if you're not biting your tongue, like very carefully phrasing your argument. Yeah. So as to construct it in a way that like you're not gonna get like immediately like everyone's gonna hate you because and so it is kind of like taking like there's this. We don't notice pressure when it's on us. We get used to the pressure that we have in any given situation. But if you all of a sudden are in this area of high pressure and you move to this area of lower pressure, all of a sudden you realize, oh wow, I had all this pressure on me before that I hadn't been like that I'd gotten used to, but had lost sight of. And that's kind of was the experience for me having moved here. It's like all of a sudden I go to the grocery store and there's 3 people with bumper stickers that, from the Free State Project or things like this. And I walk downtown to get a coffee and I'm going to run into someone I know or don't know but recognize as like a friend. And psychologically that's been a very like uplifting feeling for me. And I wasn't on my pro and con list when I thought about moving here.
Yeah. Hey, so why New Hampshire?
Well, that movement was that choice was made before I was personally involved. But New Hampshire is. So I can talk about some of the criteria in terms of how they made it. So one was they wanted to have there's size constraints, right? They want to pick a state where influence is possible. Mm-hmm. There was what is the current political affiliation of the state? How liberty-minded are they? And New Hampshire is one of the most, if not the most, liberty-oriented states to begin with. Yeah. I believe it's regularly getting ranked first or second by some of the organizations that attempt to rank this, although their names escape me because I'm bad at my job. Yeah. But some organization with 3 or 4 letters totally does this. Yeah. And they say that we're first or second, and they have an acronym, so you should trust them. I trust if a fact is attributed to an acronym. It's true.
Got it. That's it. So, right there.
Yeah. Just life lesson. Yeah. There's a lot of sarcasm in this. If you anyway, so that. There was a vote as well, so the people who had been involved that ultimately did vote. What were some of the other criteria? Geographic location, desirability of like living there.
Yeah.
There's the normal things. I think New Hampshire won by a decent amount, and I believe the second and third places not ordered were Alaska and Wyoming. So I think we can be very glad. I'm very glad it was New Hampshire over those two, because I think it would have been a lot less likely that I had moved to either of those states.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I would definitely personally do Alaska, because that's almost like perfect for that type of freedom things. It's so outside of everything else that
but I still want to be connected. Like, I'm an hour from Boston, at least for a lot of the things that I do. I don't think as much as I like the idea, there's a part of me that likes the idea of living this very remote and detached life, but honestly, for a lot of things I'm doing, I couldn't do it from Alaska, and I think doing it from Wyoming would be pretty hard too. Even as a remote company, I still find myself, I'm going to Boston on Thursday, and I'm in Boston several times a month, and it's just nice being able to be near that hub. So I definitely support the choice of New Hampshire.
Yeah, I mean, even talking about just proximity to other places, New York's only like 4 or 5 hours, and Boston's pretty close, so it's not far. So it's a good location.
Right. I mean, so I think New Hampshire is kind of everything. But I mean, I'm sure a lot of listeners of your show already appreciate that. How great New Hampshire is. But I love the choice of moving here.
Cool. Yeah. So let's get into it a little bit. So we kind of have an idea of a little bit of back. How old is the Free State Project? Is this a new concept, or is it?
It's old. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so the idea was to get 20,000 people to promise to move here. So the idea was it's called an assurance contract.
Yeah.
But this is a fancy term for what we're much more familiar as Kickstarter.
Okay.
Right? Kickstarter is an assurance contract, right?
Yeah.
If a certain group of people make a promise, in the case of Kickstarter, to pledge money, once we cross the threshold, the contract is in effect. Until we cross that threshold, or unless we cross that threshold, contract is not going to execute, right? So if I back a Kickstarter and they don't get enough money, I didn't lose anything.
Yeah.
Right. The same idea was here. So it was based off of it was actually a PhD thesis by gosh, I'll be embarrassed if I get this wrong, but I believe in political science, by a professor. His name is Jason Sorens. So he's kind of the father of the movement. Okay. And his idea was that all it would take, it was sort of studying how effective people could be politically. And he said that in a state of approximately this size, all it would take was about 20,000 people to dramatically shift the politics of the state.
Yeah.
So this study and research, which is quite good, was kind of the foundation for the idea. I don't think he didn't write the thing like expecting. Jason's a very, very academically minded person, right?
Yeah.
He's certainly glad the Free State Project is happening, but if anything, he's not the kind of person who does these kinds of things lightly. He wrote it as an academic exercise. He was not trying to start. I don't think he was not trying to start a movement. But some people read this or word spread, and gosh, I hope no one who's was there 15 years ago is listening to this, because this is all second and third hand, and I'm not a Free State Project historian yet. I've only been on the board for 6 months or 3 months. 3 months, I think. So, people got wind of the idea. They liked it. They started doing this. They started collecting people to pledge at a certain amount. I think it was 5,000 was when they held the vote on the state.
Yeah.
And it took over a little over a decade before they got the 20,000 signatures. But we have over 5,000 people here now. People have more years to move. To me, this is something that I think the assurance contract idea was a great strategy, but to me, it's New Hampshire's a libertarian state. We're going to if you're a libertarian-minded person or a freedom-minded person, I don't mean libertarian in terms of the Libertarian Party, but just if you believe in personal freedom, personal responsibility, it makes sense to live in a place with other people who think that way. Yeah. You will both feel better about your life, and you will be increasing the chance that the world itself actually works the way that you want it to.
Yeah.
And so to me, I think if you Google it, you can Google it right now, most libertarian state, you're gonna find a bunch of stuff that says New Hampshire. Libertarians are moving here. I meet libertarians who move here are wait, the Free State Project, what?
Yeah.
But they found New Hampshire because they thought this way. And so it's an interesting study in sort of marketing and branding and how there's these certain kinds of this is to bring it back to business and a business way of thinking about it. What is the name for this? kind of thing. Not a preference cascade, but basically like I can't remember the term for it, but there's these situations in business where like it's just important that there is a standard, that there is a choice. It's not like so much that paper be 8.5 by 11 inches, or that like your USB phone charger be specifically 2 millimeters or whatever it is. So much as like that's what that's the standard.
Yeah.
And so the point is, like, New Hampshire has been kind of like established as the choice. People are moving here because of it. It's going to be self-reinforcing, and it will, I think, become the standard choice that if you are of this mindset, New Hampshire is where you go.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing this kind of thing happen. As I said earlier, this is happening already. It's happening nationally. Our political affiliations have become... I don't know if this is too off topic for your show. I find that this is a fascinating factor. Our political affiliations have become... like almost the most socially defining and important characteristics about us. They've become so important. I don't like this, by the way. Let me be clear. But like you can look at they have there's very interesting data about like they surveyed people on how opposed would you be by your partner by your son or daughter marrying someone of a different race. And of course, as society has gotten much more progressive in this regard, as I think is completely correct, it's gone down. And now like very, very few people are offended by it. It's like a single-digit percentage.
Yeah.
And then you can plot that against, not trying to say that there's some relationship here, I just think it's interesting, how offended would you be if your son or daughter married someone of a different political persuasion? Yeah. And it used to be 40 or 50 years ago, no one really cared. Yeah. It was the same kind of single-digit percentage. Republicans and Democrats, didn't matter. Mm-hmm. You look at it now, and it's just so vicious. It's I don't know the percentages, but it's significant. It's like, I want to say it's like 20, 30, 40% of people are like, would be offended by the idea of their son or daughter, marrying someone that wasn't of the same political party, which is just like crazy. I think it's crazy. But, but this has become... like these I think we've become so politically divided, and people are making so many choices are political. Like the fast food restaurant that we eat at, that's a political choice now for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, because what's the one that's
Chick-fil-A? Right.
I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I mean we could. Some people would probably resent saying that that's not a political kind of choice. But here's another example of that. I mean, I think I like this one as an example of like how minute this can get. There's a website called Reddit. I don't know if you're... Okay. So if your audience isn't familiar with it, it's this like social sharing website. It's like anyone can post links there. And you post images, and you would upload your images on this other website to post them on Reddit. This isn't true anymore, but this was true 2 years ago. So if you were going to post an image on Reddit, you would upload it somewhere else, and you would post that image URL on Reddit. And like the image sharing site you used became a political choice. Yeah. Where like all of the people who were Republicans... or not Republicans is the wrong term, like sort of on like the red team, like the right-oriented, were using one image-sharing site. And all the people that were like on the blue or the left team, which aren't exactly the same thing, were using a different site. It's like, that's crazy. Like, what is this? Isn't a this is a you upload an image and you get a URL back. Like, who cares? Like, who cares? Does the site work or not? Does it work? Does it perform its function? I just think I don't know. To me, the idea that we're gonna choose everything we do, we're going to choose along... I just think it's a disaster, honestly, to say we're going to make all of these choices along political axes. But it does seem that's the direction we're heading in. And to bring it back to business advice, maybe as a business owner, you should probably be thinking about these things. Because maybe it's a good way to get business or your competition or who knows. Because we care about this way, way more, I think, than we used to. And I think the trends are towards caring about it more and more.
Yeah. I find it odd that, being liberty-minded is being made very, very political now. And I've always found that very, very odd, especially just from this last election cycle. I think it was New Boston, because I live in Goffstown. So in New Boston, there's a lot of like kind of like the libertarian free state kind of movement going on there. And I want to say the Democrat incumbent or whatever put out some pretty like hit pieces against the libertarians and the Free State Project and all these things, even though they're a little bit different, but about how awful the Free State Project is because they're liberty-minded and, so things that I'm reading and I'm like, these are all good things. To people who want a lot of control, it's bad. And I was like, why is this political? Why is being free a bad political statement?
Well, this is an area where I can actually sometimes I will disagree with other like libertarians on this, like because to me it's clear to me that a lot of people do have the preference to control other people's lives and to have their lives controlled by others.
Yeah.
And like, if people want that, I don't want to begrudge them. Like,
Yeah.
I don't begrudge a socialist or a communist or any of these, unless they're saying that policy needs to be for everyone in the world. All right, then I'd say, okay, we're probably not going to get along right.
Yeah.
But if someone says, I want to live in a communist way with other people, but there will be like some space for other people who don't want to live communist to live that way, then that's great to me. And same with socialist, and same with mainstream Democrat and mainstream Republican, and all of these choices. Like, it seems there's so much space in the world, and we have all this time fighting. We spent all this time fighting over how all 300 million people in the contiguous United States are going to live by one set of rules, and I'm just like, but like, why though?
Yeah.
That's what I'm like, why?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. And so that's the same kind of thing. So it's like, to me, if this kind of person is saying, well, I don't think people should be able to make as many choices for themselves. I think the state or the government or whatever can know better for people. And well, okay, I don't agree with that. But I feel like there should be enough space that people who want to live that way, like, look, a lot of people like the product, or at least have been convinced that the product that is provided by democracy in the United States, like the government that they get, a lot of people like it. A lot of people like it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, unless that person is saying, well, I like it and there's no exception for that. Like, you talk to a normal person. I'm very liberty-minded, right? I know very few people are offended by the idea that, like, okay, like, could the libertarians have, like, 10 square miles, like, somewhere on the planet to, like, go live in there without the FDA and, without whatever. It's like, yeah, sure. They just want it for themselves. They want the FDA and the public. Well, I mean, not that necessarily libertarians are against these things. Libertarianism is abroad. Some libertarians would be fine with some of these things. But, whatever. But if they want the FDA and the public schools and, like, all the things that, and the foreign wars and 50% of their income or more given to the government, if they want that, great, let them have it. Like, just give us a space. And so that's another reason I like the Free State Project, is, like, it just as someone who regularly presents things to people and talks to people about them, the reception is just so much better. Because the idea is not, I want to make America libertarian, which is a very threatening idea if you believe in some of the things that, say, a mainstream Democrat or a mainstream Republican believes in. But you're not saying that. You're saying, could we just have, like, some space? And we don't even want all of New Hampshire, right? Like, New Hampshire is just, like, the smallest feasible, like, given the setup of the United States. But, like, we're happy to give us some, even less. I seriously think all it would take is, like, 5 square miles anywhere in the world. Like, you could put it in the desert and be like, yep, everything's good here.
Yeah.
Or really, it's not one. What we need is a framework. This is actually my only strong belief. It's literally my only strong political belief. It's a very business-related idea.
Yeah.
Which is that if you want to get good results, you need a framework in which anyone, not literally anyone, but, like, you need a new entities can enter in competition, and some entities can fail due to lack of quality. Or they're not doing a good job. And that's what we see in business. And if we look at the things, if you look at businesses, the more an area of business is set up to work this way, the higher quality of results as a consumer gets, right? And by the way, if you're looking at going into business, therefore, you should look for businesses that don't have this property, right? Yeah. You should look for businesses where the competition isn't going to be as fierce. But the more fierce the competition is, the better generally the results for the consumer. The cheaper the prices, the better the quality. Yeah. I think restaurants are a great example of this, where, like, even in New Hampshire, which is not a particularly, like, large, you can get every kind of cuisine, practically every level of quality. Yeah. Because it's not that hard to start a restaurant, and a lot of people can start restaurants, and a lot of people know how to cook, and so you get pretty high quality results. And if you look at government, it's an oligopoly. No one can start a new government. The United States charges you money to leave. It's not even free to leave. And if someone wants to start a new government, even in accordance with international law, if you look at things like Liberland, or there's another one in Egypt or places like this, or sea land. Even international law around these things isn't really respected because it's not good for the countries to have more competition.
Yeah.
So they're going to be very resistant to that. But this is what we need. We need, to think. I think it's unlikely that we found the best way to organize society of all time. I think it's unlikely that the United States in 1770s settled on the best organization of human beings for the rest of eternity. I think it's unlikely that that's true. I think they did a pretty good job. So if that's not true, we need a framework in which we can continue to experiment and find new things, and that framework doesn't exist. That's the biggest problem. It might be that socialism's awesome, right? Like if someone started a socialist country and it just all was amazing and it just all worked, like I'm skeptical that would happen. But I'm a scientist. If someone presented me with evidence, maybe I'd think about moving there. Maybe like, whoops, I was wrong, right? Like that's how that's how we should view the world. I mean, again, if you're asking me to bet on it, I'd give them less than 1% chance. No, don't mistake me for thinking otherwise. But they should certainly be allowed to try, and 1% chances succeed sometimes. Some people would say that the libertarianism has a 1% chance of succeeding and not turning into a corporate-dominated hell. Okay, let us try. Because if we try and we fail, it didn't cost you anything, and the world learned. And if we succeed and it works, then we learn something new, and it's great.
Yeah.
So it's like exactly the setup that we want, right? The negative externalities are contained to the people participating in the experiment. The positive externalities are available to everyone. Everyone in the world should be in favor of the, of it happening. Whereas everyone in the world should not be in favor of the United States moving in towards libertarian policies. I don't think I couldn't say that. How do I, I think they'd probably be better, but that's a much harder claim than the much narrower claim that I just made.
Yeah.
And so I like the narrower one because, it's much more defensible, much easier to persuade people of.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, it makes sense. Like, competition is important, and it's when you allow those ideas out, and then they fight against each other, and you find out which one works, which one's stronger, and you go from there. But as you were saying earlier, the problem is they're not even allowed.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest arguments I get online all the time is like, oh, there's no place that has, these types of principles that ever does well. And I'm like, no, it's not allowed anywhere. We're like, the Free State Project is fighting, you're bringing people in, you're trying to create it, and it's resisted heavily, like everywhere.
Yeah, yes.
Which is your big.
But there's enough of us, right? But look, there are 3 to 5 million people in the United States who regularly vote libertarian.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily everyone in the free state. So that's already 5 times the state of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Let alone, I believe it's something like 15 to 20% of people who identify as both fiscally conservative and socially liberal, which is basically a libertarian. Mm-hmm. So it might not be a majority idea in any given state, but there's enough people that we could be a majority in a lot of states.
Yeah.
And so the answer is look, if you like those things, you're losing them everywhere. By concentrating, maybe we can win in one place. Yeah. And maybe we can also put pressure on the United States government to, be less aggressive about those things in the state. But the first step is, to concentrate.
Yeah. Cool. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, we're getting about a half-hour point. Let's do a quick plug for you guys. Where did I write that?
FSP.org is the domain name. If you're already convinced that you should sign up, it's fsp.org/join. You can also join our newsletter if you're not ready to sign up. And you can also donate. So if you're like, wow, that sounds great, but there's no way I'm going to ever participate, you can relax your guilt right now by making a donation. And that's also on the website. I believe it's /donate, but you can certainly just find it from the homepage. Also, I think you can just visit. Visiting's really good. That's the best if you have never been to New Hampshire. If you've never been to New Hampshire and you listen to Chris's show, you don't need the Free State Project to convince you that you ought to come up and visit. So you should do that. If you specifically want to visit on behalf of the Free State Project, there's Liberty Forum in February, which is the serious one where there's serious discussions, and people have fun too, but it's presentations and discussions, and it's a great chance to meet people, and it's in February, so you'll see what the winters are like. And there's also Pork Fest, which is the Burning Man of Liberty. Still some discussion, but camping in the woods, Certainly much more of a recreational atmosphere. Private campground.
cool.
Federal agents will be driven from the property with haste, let's say. Started that sentence without a way to end it. And what else? Yeah, come and visit. We're also, there's like a whole system of like you can get advice on your visit, and you can find people to meet. There's events, like I think there's a Liberty event literally every day of the week in the state of New Hampshire. There's usually several a day because there's so many cities and there's so many people here. All on the website, but definitely visit, definitely check it out. It's not, the words can't really describe the subjective experience of the visit, so that's the first step.
Cool. Awesome. I like it.
Yeah.
So, actually, it's a pretty good leaving off point. You got me
Yeah.
right there. So, yeah.
Great. Happy to be on the show. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
And you guys, if you want to learn more, definitely reach out, look at what the information they have. As I know, Jeremy and I have been talking a lot about, a lot of personal beliefs and stuff like that. So, those could change based on the person. The liberty is liberty. It's pretty vast.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you'll find all types here. So, like, I'm a startup, business-oriented person. You'll find people who are into permaculture, and people who are all about school choice, and people are into, funny people who are very into like shooting and gun culture. Didn't talk about any of that. But so like, no matter what you're into, there's going to be some people who are into that here because there's 5,000 of us.
Yeah, pretty cool. I like it. So anyway, thank you guys so much. Thank you for joining me, and I'll talk to you all next time.